What's up, guys? Pete here, and welcome back to the show. Today on the table we've got the Boker Kalashnikov 74, and I want to apologize in advance real quick. Spring has sprung, and unfortunately so has my allergies as well, so my voice is going to be a little off today. Sorry about that, just bear with me there. On the table we've got the Boker Kalashnikov 74. This is the last knife that has been generously donated to me by my good friend Cameron for these reviews. This is most notably the first ever automatic knife that we've ever reviewed on this channel, the first ever automatic knife I've ever owned, actually. So it's going to be an exciting day for everyone here. Now, as always, let's start off with the general specs. As I said, it is automatic, so you've got that deployment, which is excellent. The overall length is 7.5 inches long. The blade itself is 3¼ inches long. It is AUS 8 steel, and it is a drop point, as you can see here, and is fully flat ground. Now, into the handle, it is 4¼ inches. It's aluminum, and it's got this nice texturing, these broad strokes here, as well as this nice kind of pitting for texture as well. It is a push-button style lock, which I will show you a little bit more closely later on. The pocket clip is currently set up for right side tip-up carry, and that is the only way, as far as I can tell, to set up the pocket clip. It is also a super deep carry pocket clip, which I love, and we'll talk a little bit more about later. And it does have a non-tubed lanyard hole for those of you who like to put lanyards on your knives. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. This is an automatic knife. So first thing first, let's get the disclaimer out of the way. Yes, please check your local state and federal laws, as, these are illegal in a lot of states, unfortunately. Or, check out my other video. I'll have a link probably at the top here in one of those cards to my video where I discuss the knife laws in New Jersey in particular, and where you can find your own laws for your own state. Now, that being said, I like automatic knives. They're nice. This is the first one I've ever owned, so I don't have much to compare it to that is, fully automatic. I personally own primarily spring-assisted knives, and they work fantastically well. I like the principle of it. I like the fact that if you only have one hand for whatever reason, you can deploy it very easily. That is a very nice feature to have in a lot of situations. I don't find myself requiring that feature a lot of the time, but it's one of those things where I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it, etc. On this particular knife, the deployment is very, very strong. It rockets out like crazy, which is excellent. There are some downsides to this, however, not to the deployment itself, but the button to deploy the knife is kind of mushy, so there's a good bit of travel you have to go through before it finally deploys the knife. Not a fan of that. Not a very high-end feel, which is understandable. This is a cheaper knife, but I'm just not a fan of that. It's just kind of janky. I will say that, coupled with the fact that it's a fairly recessed button, which is another thing I'm not a fan of, but those are kind of doubling as safety features, so it won't deploy in your pocket accidentally, or in wherever you have it accidentally, which is nice. It's just a little annoying for deployment's sake, but take that as it is. It does, however, deploy just fine. It's just a little annoying. So, overall, the deployment is pretty much perfect. Now, the other thing that I have a bit of a gripe with is the locking mechanism. So, this is a push-button lock. Let's see if I can get this in the camera. There you go. You see that little cone kind of shape there? That, if I can deploy this properly here, that shape there, joink, that will slip past and release the blade. And then we'll fall on behind, right back here, to lock the blade up as well. Now, there's a bit of a problem with this. First of all, because it's got that, there we go, that conical shape to it, it's kind of favoring being slipped off of. I don't think it would happen very easily, but it kind of gives the possibility for that to accidentally deploy, which I'm not a huge fan of. It is kind of on a slope there, so that worries me a little bit, but I haven't had any issues with that. The other thing I'm not a fan of with this lockup is it's kind of janky as hell. So if you look at the top of the blade here, that little tiny mark that my camera is not going to want to focus on at the moment, because when does it ever, that is a very, very shallow little cut that has been taken out of the top of this knife. That is the entire lock face. So that little piece there clicks in right here onto that lock bar. And I don't like that at all. It is secure. I haven't had any issues with it personally, but it's sketchy as fuck and it worries me. Again, I don't know if anyone has had issues with it. I haven't had any issues with it. Cameron hasn't had any issues with it, but I personally don't like it. I wouldn't use it for heavy use. I'd be very worried about that lock failing on me at some point, especially with heavy use. As you use the knife more and more, you will start to round over the edges of that little divot that's taken out of there, making it a lot easier for the knife to slip, out of that lockup, which worries me more than a little bit. So I don't know if I would carry this personally, if anything, just for that very reason. Now let's get to something that I do like about this knife. First off is the handle is very comfortable to hold. The overall shape of it is very ergonomic. It locks you in quite nicely. These little not quite grooves, little divots here that you have on the side, very comfortable, fit your fingers fairly well. And the texturing, while not amazing, is grippy enough. There's also some jimping on the spine here, which certainly locks you in a little bit. It's not the most aggressive jimping I've ever seen, but it certainly does its job. I, however, don't really use it just because if I were to choke up on this knife, I'm well past where any jimping is, but it still feels secure and locks you in quite nicely. Another nice little aesthetic touch that I can guarantee you my camera's not going to want to pick up is on the actual pivot here. Yeah, you can kind of see it. It basically just says Automatic Kalashnikov. And it's just a nice little stylized pivot. Super simple, but it's a nice little aesthetic touch. It was nice to see them take the time to do. And of course, it costs them a little bit of money to do that as well, so just a nice little touch there. Additionally, I do like this deep carry clip. It is a fantastic deep carry clip. It looks terrible, which really disappointed by. Looks absolutely atrocious. I hate that little wiggle that's there. I don't know why that's there. I guess stylistically it kind of matches with the rest of the handle. I don't know. I don't like it. But functionally, it works great. It holds just fine in your pocket. And this is super deep carry, which, as you guys know from watching my channel, I love deep carry. You're showing almost none of the knife as you're carrying it, which is absolutely fantastic in my opinion. It is non-reversible in any sense of the word, however, which bothers me. But again, for me, as a right-hander who doesn't care whether it's tip up, tip down, it works just fine for me. And with that, I guess that brings us into our final point here, which is the price. This knife, or various versions of it, can be found for about $30 to $40 on Blade HQ or similar sites. So it's not a terribly expensive knife, and for an automatic, that's actually fairly reasonable. What you're getting for that $30 to $40 is a lower-end automatic knife with lower-end materials. The steel is AUS-8, as I said. It's not a fantastic steel or anything. It's not going to blow you away with any of its qualities, but it will get the job done. And as an entry-level automatic, just to get used to, how they function, how they feel, the things you have to get used to in carrying one, it's a great little way for people to get started with automatic knives and get more comfortable with them, which I think is a great option. Pretty much the only thing that's keeping me from recommending this knife in general is that lockup. That lockup scares me a lot, and I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending it to others. I do know that it's probably totally fine. I know that you're not putting that much abuse into these knives, but it wouldn't feel right for me to recommend it knowing that that lockup is so sketchy and worries me so much, so I can't recommend it for that reason. But if you're okay accepting that risk, then yes, the rest of the knife is fairly decent. The deployment is strong, albeit a bit mushy at the start. The lockup is secure enough when it's closed, and that deep carry pocket clip is excellent. So I can't recommend it, but maybe take a look at it. That's all I'm going to say as far as that goes. But that pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk about with this knife. Very nice little offering from Boker. And thank you again to Cameron for generously lending me this knife. I will return it to you with a nice mirror polished edge as a way of saying thanks. So thanks again for watching, guys. As always, please like, subscribe, and comment down below if you have any questions regarding this knife, any other knife, or anything else really that has to do with EDC or just this kind of lifestyle. And as always, guys, keep your edges sharp and your mind sharper, and I'll see you in the next one.